Hello everybody and welcome back to the industry podcast, Call Yourself a Wholesaler, from Lamps Electrical and now Evergy officially, our renewable division as well. So important we mention that as part of the Lamps group. Yeah, welcome to episode 8. This week we've got an interesting subject, but relevant and important, certainly in the modern world and also with large project work that takes place these days and what the demands are to win a project with sustainability. We've invited John Humphreys along from Marshall Tufflex to talk to us about what Marshall Tufflex are doing to support the environment and to discuss his sustainability plan as a business. And I think we all know the name Marshall Tufflex and we know how long Marshall Tufflex has been around and how successful they are as a business. And I think it's great to see that such a legacy company as famous in our industry as Marshall's are really focusing on sustainability. And as I touched on earlier, those larger contracts that are now getting over the line, for example, large projects in London or something like HS2, they all require a sustainability plan as part of winning the project, and that's how important it is these days. So we've got John Humphreys coming up in the second section of the podcast from Marshall Tufflex to talk to us about sustainability. So what's going on in Lamps and Evergy at the moment? So as I said on the last episode, we proudly launched our renewable platform, Evergy, which so far, so good. It's gone really well from day one. We're starting to see some traction on it. And I hope everybody that listens and our customer base, and even not our customer base, other people within the industry have taken a look to see how strong the platform is. What's going on in Lamps at the moment? So we've got plenty of things going on in November. I'm going to use this part of the podcast just to update you with what we're doing as a business. So what have we got happening? So at Bicester this month, we've got a customer curry night leading up to Christmas time. And we've also got a customer curry night at Aylesbury as well. It's something that a couple of our branches generally do around this time of year. So please speak to the Bicester branch or the Aylesbury branch to get involved. Also at Bicester this month, we have got a Hager double socket promotion, and it's running every single Friday in November. It's something that we did earlier on in the year, and it was extremely successful. So please, again, speak to the Bicester guys to find out more details. But as I said, that double socket promotion will be running every single Friday in November. This is a nice touch, and it's kind of aligned with what we're doing as a business for Christmas. Shepherd's Bush branch are donating lamps to charity. So we're donating them to schools, we're donating them to hospitals, and people that need lamps that are either financially struggling for support or just generally need some extra stock for their building. Shepherd's Bush branch have taken it upon themselves to start moving some of their lamp stock out into the network and into their customers, which I thought was a really nice touch. The other thing that our Shepherd's Bush branch are doing, or Luke Oliver is leading in Shepherd's Bush, is some free training with Wise Controls. If you want any more details on that, please speak to our Shepherd's Bush branch. What else have we got on? So we are looking at doing an extra session of Ajax CCTV and security training. So we did one of these in October. We thought it was a finger in the air trial job. It actually went really well, and the feedback we received was fantastic. And looking at the product, in terms of the product knowledge and the product training we had, it's a fantastic bit of kit as well. And I think it's worth everybody considering this, because even the DIY version of the product is easy to install by anybody, and it doesn't necessarily have to be installed by a registered security installer. So it's definitely worth having a look at. So we're going to have a look at that before Christmas again to try and promote the CCTV, security and door access arena. We're also going to squeeze in a Lutron customer experience day before Christmas as well. These days are fantastic. We've done 3 of them this year, where we get 10 to 15 contractors along with us in London near Liverpool Street at the Lutron Customer Experience Centre, and we go and have an afternoon spent with Lutron. This time we're going to be doing it slightly differently because it is a Christmas-themed one leading up to the festive period, so we'll make sure that we have a great afternoon following being in the Experience Centre. Two more really key points before I hand over to the second part of the podcast. So, as of November the 1st, we have introduced external sales presence in Lamps and Evergy. So, every single branch now in Lamps and our renewable division Evergy has an external sales presence. This is a first time for Lamps in the 20 years of its existence, and we're excited to say that we will be continuing our focus on building our customer relationships out there in the marketplace with our experienced external sales guys. So please keep your eye out for a phone call or for an email or for a visit from one of our external guys. For Christmas, we are doing something different, and I'll touch on this in a little bit more detail in our next podcast leading up to Christmas. But for Christmas, we're doing something different. Rather than doing a sales promotion, we've taken it and we've switched it, and we're going to do a gift promotion. At Lamps this year, we are collecting as many children's toys as possible, new or used, in any single location, in any single branch of Lamps. And we are collecting all toys between now and the week before Christmas to give to the children that are less fortunate and vulnerable. So please, if you do have any toys that your children don't use anymore and they're in great condition, please hand them in. But also, if you've got any new toys hanging around for whatever reason, or you just feel like giving a gesture to Lamps and children this year, please do drop the new toys into the branches. And as I said, I'll cover this in a little bit more detail in our next episode leading up to Christmas. Finally, from me, just wanted to let our customers know that we do have our annual stock take coming up, and it is going to affect business proceedings around Christmas time. So we close for stock take at 5 p.m. on Friday, the 20th of December, and we will be continuing stock take over the whole weekend. Obviously, we'll be shut for that, and also Monday, the 23rd of December also. So we'll be closed on the 23rd. So for those customers that are still working around that time of year leading up to Christmas, we will be starting stock take on Friday the 20th and finishing it at close of business on Monday the 23rd. Thanks, everyone. A few brief updates from the company. That's not everything that we've got going on. We've got loads of other things happening, so please speak to your representatives or your local branch to find out more. Remember, the 5% deal on sign-ups for Evergy, our renewables division, is still on. So if you haven't signed up yet and you've got a renewable orders in place, please do, because you'll benefit from 5%. And also, we've got the Christmas PlayStation promotion as well via Evergy, where we are giving away 2 PlayStations. Please visit www.evergy.co.uk to find out more. So, over to part 2 of the podcast, episode 9. And as I said at the start, a informative, important subject here. I'm going to hand over now to John Humphreys and myself to talk about sustainability from Marshall Tufflex. Thank you. Hello everybody, and welcome to the guest part of our podcast, Call Yourself a Wholesaler, helping the industry out as much as we possibly can. And today we've got a special guest I've known for many, many years, John from Marshall Tufflex. John, do you want to introduce yourself? Welcome.
Well, thank you, Joe, for that introduction. Make us sound and feel very old. So my name's John Humphrey. I'm the commercial director of Marshall Tufflex. And as you say, we've been in the industry for some considerable time. Myself now entering probably my 30th year. So I started when I was 3. No, it's an industry we both love. And I thank you for the opportunity to talk about it today.
Thank you very much. So another thing we love, and this is a prompted question, but just to get things going, what football team do you support?
Well, the only football team there is to support, mate. I mean, another thing that you and I have in common, the mighty Spurs, mate.
Absolutely, well done. Brilliant.
Fantastic. We've just come off a fantastic win, so happy days.
Yeah, good news. Right, to get these podcasts rolling, before we get into the subject, John, I kind of ask an icebreaker question or a couple just to get things going. Although you've started the podcast extremely well, by the way, very, very open. So, where's the favourite place you've ever been?
Good question. I think New York would be the favourite place I've been. Have you been?
Yes.
Just unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, another world.
I really loved it. But if we're talking about, holidays and stuff like that, we've been to Mexico a few times now, and I really love that.
Yeah.
Peninsula there that's got Riviera Maya and Playa del Carmen and up to Cancun if you're a party animal.
Okay.
Which obviously I'm not anymore, but so I'd say those are the two places that I do really, really like and would recommend people visit.
Yeah. Another tough one. Going to the pub or going to the gym?
I mean, thank God this isn't video. I mean, I'd put you to shame because I am extremely fit. Honed like mahogany I am. It would definitely be the pub, mate. It would definitely be the rugby club. And if you're actually asking, if it's winter, it's Guinness.
Yeah.
And if it's summer and it's hot, it's cider.
I knew you were going to say
and
that.
If it's in between, it's a lager like a Moretti.
Yeah.
So £3.50 at Bracknell Rugby Club. Anyone's welcome.
There we go. plug in Bracknell Rugby Club as well. Superb. Right, so let's go on to the subject, John. So, yeah, like I say, thanks for coming in. So, quite an important subject there. Certainly in the current world, full stop, but also in our industry in terms of what some of our contractors, are now expected to do and stick by. So, talk to us about why you're here today.
Well, look, you're right. I think the decision-making process for clients and therefore contractors and wholesalers changing. And it's changing towards a much more emphasis in the decision-making on sustainability, various different acronyms for it. But at the moment, the one's ESG, so environmental, social and governance.
Yeah.
So these three things probably 5 years ago were an average of 20-30% of the decision-making process. Let's say pricing was 50%.
Yes.
Yeah, and then various other bits. I think that's much more changing now towards 40 to 50% is around your sustainability credentials.
Yeah, so
it's really changing. Now, it'll change from the top down. It'll change from tier 1 and 2 customers down. It'll start as it has done with the government, Department of Justice, Department of Prisons, Department of Education, Department of wherever, National Health, because those guys have a requirement around their sustainability targets. It'll then start with big blue chip companies, which it has done already. So the big question is, what do suppliers have to offer the wholesaler, the contractor, and the client? And I think that's where a differential exists.
Yeah.
Now, Marshall Tufflex are in a unique position that we have the majority, 61% of our raw material usage in UPVC is from recycled material.
Yeah.
So the material is recycled, the material is recyclable.
Yeah.
So we're not even really talking about cradle to grave. We're talking about cradle to grave to cradle. So what some people call a circular economy. So from our point of view, that differential is a key pillar within our strategy.
And we're talking, that's coming from a company like Marshall Tufflex. This isn't a new company. This is a company that's been around for
81 years.
80 years. So you're going into this space now of the modern world and adapting to it, which is...
Exactly. When we talk to customers, a key part of what we offer is the sustainability. So we have a little catchphrase we use, which you all know, and some of your listeners hopefully will know as well. And if people ask how we're doing at a networking event, I'll say we're just saving the world 3 meters at a time.
Yeah.
Because we are, because single-use plastic is pretty dirty word in the net zero journey, but recycled UPVC that can be recycled is a really credible option.
Yeah.
And that's what we're promoting. And we do that in a number of different ways that I'm sure we'll cover over the next few minutes. But it's important that they're credible and provable.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'd like to talk about as we move through today.
Absolutely. So why should we as wholesalers and contractors get up? It's a very sort of basic question. Get up to speed with this, and sort of where do we all start?
The fact of the matter is that I felt it really changed after the climate summit in Glasgow. I felt that that's when there was a real sea change. So the journey to net zero, you know, we've all signed up. The governments of the first world countries have all signed up to the agreement to be net zero by 2050, which is a significant undertaking. And that has to cascade to business at some point. And that point was Glasgow. I think it was because it was a United Kingdom presentation. It was globally and internationally seen. And I think the government really pushed their foot down on the accelerator then. Yeah. And as I say, it then starts with the government departments, the tier 1s and 2s and the main contractors.
Like I say, from the top down, and it filters through, Yeah.
So if you're looking at that, you know, the question you'd ask yourself, I love this quote, right? And I believe it is from, Planet Mark, who do a number of support functions, which their name will come up a bit. So if you really think that the environment is less important than the economy, try holding your breath while you count your money. Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah.
You know, if we can't operate and live effectively, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying society's going to be destroyed that much.
Yeah, it's powerful, isn't it?
But certainly, if you look at some of the key indicators, and I don't want to be political because it's not what we're about, you know, there's some worrying statistics out there. So we've all got to start this journey. So in answer to your question, I think there's a number of things that need to happen. I think as an organisation, whether you are a client, whether you're a main contractor, whether you're a contractor, a wholesaler, or a supplier, you have to start your journey.
Yeah.
Every great journey starts by putting your shoes on.
Yeah.
So that's what you've got to do. And that might mean you simply have a 1-page strategy on what your net zero contribution is going to be.
Yeah.
Where are we now? Where do we want to be by 2030,
plan,
2040, 2050? I personally and Marshall Tufflex felt that we wouldn't be able to do that journey on our own. We weren't expert enough, so we work with a company called Planet Mark.
Yeah.
And what Planet Mark do, and you'll notice they support a number of people in the electrical industry, and there are other people that do this. It's not an advert for them alone. So what we do with them is we have a starting point, and then what we do is we work with them every year to mark our progress, and then we have improvement plans and we have strategies around that. That means that we have to have a pillar in our strategy for it, and there has to be a pillar owner for it that is very senior in the organisation. That's why our managing director, John Chamberlain, is in charge of our ESG strategy.
Okay.
It's a cross-functional team because it has to be every part of the business, from supply to manufacture to sales, etc. So that team is responsible for that journey to net zero, but we're all responsible.
Yeah. So anybody from a man in a van
Yeah.
to a tier 1 contractor in central London.
Yes, they can have a strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah. They can understand the measurement of their CO2 emissions as an organisation.
Yeah.
That's what Planet Mark help you with.
Okay. Planet Mark, yeah?
Yeah. So I would have some strategy formulation that way. By the way, if you're a contractor and you do any work with the people I mentioned earlier, they will ask you for your sustainability process. They'll ask you for your targets, and then what people will do is battle around Google trying to get AI to do it for them.
Well, you mentioned a stat earlier on, John. Sorry to interrupt there, but you mentioned a stat about 30-40% of the decision making going around this subject now. That's true. You know, I've seen it. Certain contracts are now being awarded based on sustainability. Obviously, price is a big thing, but it's becoming more and more prevalent, isn't it now?
Absolutely. We had a tier 1 contract, but it was the subcontractor we were dealing with, and we had 4 or 5 hour meeting and factory tour with them, and it wasn't until 5 minutes before they left that they asked for a quotation with the wholesaler that was in the room with us. I was gobsmacked and delighted, because that shows that percentage shift is real. So you have to have your own internal plan and strategy, and you may find a support business like Planet Mark good for that. The second thing is, we find as a supplier, there's more onus on us as a supplier, right, than there is for you, because effectively quite a lot of your figures are going to come from us. Yeah. So if your supply base isn't on the ball, you're going to find it difficult to put your numbers together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So there's huge pressure from national wholesalers, from independent buying groups like yourself, within AWeb, where they're asking us where we are, because they can't know where they are without us. Yeah. And equally, a contractor won't know without you. So the other thing we do is we work with a company called EcoVadis. Yep. And EcoVadis, which is ECO space VADIS. And what they do is they independently score us on those key sustainability and environmental issues. And they issue a certificate. Okay? Everything I've spoken about is on the Marshall Tufflex sustainable element of our website. You can check all our certification. You can even see our progress. We show everything, because it's a journey. Yeah. We're not perfect. We're not at net zero now, but we're on the right track towards it. Yeah. And by the way, we measure everything from the journeys of our salespeople in their company cars, right through to the material we use within the building.
And that's what came up in this contract I just mentioned. Yeah. That was around, how far is your van going to be delivering in a diesel vehicle? You know, is it EV? Is it hybrid? Is it diesel? What's the mileage? That's kind of where we're looking, isn't it?
And that's a perfect link into the third area, which I don't know how many of your listeners will have heard of. And in fact, I'm not putting you on the spot. I don't know if you've heard of it. Very few people have. Is the requests we get now for embedded carbon data on our product, which has a shorthand of TM, T for Tommy, M for microwave, 65, which is each product has a calculation of its CO2. So if you're a designer or an architect or a specifier, and you're specifying every product in a building, not just electrical, you could have an embedded carbon calculation for the whole building, and then you prove that you're saving that amount of CO2. You've got a carbon neutral building. Without embedded carbon documents, you're not going to find that out. Now, the way we do that is we use the SIBSI measurement. It's the only one out there. Yeah. If everybody uses it, then you've got an equal playing field, yeah? So all our products have a SIBSI TM65 embedded carbon PDF. Okay. So you can send those over to the designer, to the specifier. He can do his calculation. Every 3 meters is 0.01 of carbon tons emission. Times that by the 74,000 meters, you've got the number. Yeah. So embedded carbon, those TM65s are really key moving forward. And more businesses are being involved. We used to get asked them once or twice a month last year. It's now 10 times a week. Yeah. But it's contractors, not wholesalers.
Yeah, so it shows you how much the attention is growing. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that, within that, having those three key things in place, it's a starting point. You can there's not very many clients that expect a perfect supplier. What they expect is someone to be able to show a journey, show where they are, show where they're going, and show progress. So I think that both Planet Mark and EcoVadis do that brilliantly for us.
So in terms of a contractor doing this, as let's say they come up with a strategy next week, in terms of tracking that strategy about how well they're doing, that is where Planet Mark comes in and the support there.
And also EcoVadis.
And EcoVadis.
For, you'll see a lot of the suppliers now showing their certification. For example, at the moment we're on silver. Yeah. And we're going for gold by the end of the year. Okay. And then maybe, I think I saw a platinum recently, but I'm not sure if I was making that up. So measuring and being credible is really important.
And it's not all about, so you're speaking from a manufacturer's perspective where you're recycling material and then reproducing and then selling out to the wholesalers and into the world. So but it's not always that, is it? It's solar PV on your roof to cut your energy bills down, your EV company car policy, things like that.
So actually, the recycled element is less beneficial to us in those measurements as a manufacturer than it is to the people that are installing it. That's where the real, brownie points come, if you like. And I think that there isn't anybody else in cable management that we know of that we've seen any evidence that they use recycled product. We heard one of the competitors might have under 5% at some point. We don't know anything. Nothing's visual. We'd much rather they visualised it. They put it on their website as we do, because then it would give us something. It would help us actually, We can't do it all alone. We want some help. So for us, in terms of the recycled material, you can't always use recycled material. If you think of a dado, you in a beautiful office, if you had a finish, you really need to use the virgin for that bit. Yeah. That's why we're not 100%, we're 61. Yeah.
From what people see. Yeah.
But 100% of the bit you don't see,
the back,
I can tell you is recycled. Okay. So from our point of view, we're reasonable and understanding of the finish of the product, but we're also maximising where we can the recycled ability. But you're right. Solar panels on our roof in our factory is a project that's underway. We've just fitted all electric chargers throughout our factory.
Likewise,
in Hastings and Manchester's on its way. So from our point of view, we've lifted our head above the parapet by saying what we say about sustainability being this important and the recycled content being really important. And it really is. But we have to then walk the walk on the rest of it. Yeah. And that's why we've got John as MD, really driving that forward. And we've got a great cross-functional team. They're really motivated by it. We've planted trees in our garden at work to offset various different. So I mean, they're small things, but they all add up.
There's lots of different ways. It's good that John's doing it, because it is one of those things that does have to come from the top. It has to be led from the top. I've got a question for you. So obviously, all this is great, and you can see that just outside of our industry, outside of Marshall Tufflex, the world is having to change to get on board with this. But does the general contractor really care at the moment? What's the general feedback you're getting?
So this is a great question, and this is a question I ask in presentations. I did a presentation to 30-odd people week before last, electrical wholesale managers, and I asked them, does the guy coming on your counter care that the Marshall Tufflex product he's buying is 50, 60, 70, 80, 100% recycled? Yeah. The consensus was no, they don't care. My answer is they will. They will care when their client cares. They will care when someone goes, hang on a minute, what's the green credentials of that product?
Yeah, because they will get asked.
They will, because it's cascading. Yes. Tier 1 and 2s now, and then I would say, and we've already established I'm an old crumbly, right?
So 33, yeah.
So I'm actually, I know it's hard to believe I'm 53, but there's no wrinkles on a balloon. That's what I always say. So, I've got, 7-10 years left in me. It'll happen way before then. Yeah. Marshall Tufflex will see the benefit of our strategy in the next 3 to 5 years.
So the momentum is now.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it would take a competitor 3 years to ramp up to being 61% recycled material, because it doesn't run the same through machines. You have a different, you have to work it differently. Or say it's a bit like baking a cake. I don't know if you've baked a cake, it doesn't always come out perfectly. So, we've worked really hard, and we've been working with the material for 30 years, so we're experts. So there are contractors now who don't care.
I was going to say, so is that generally the fit at the minute? We are still at that position where...
Yeah, the one-man bands, the two-man bands, if their clients aren't asking, they're not. But you know what? What if they do a school?
Yeah.
Right?
And it becomes...
And the school's Marshall Tufflex.
Yeah.
And he asks, why is it Marshall Tufflex? And they say, well, because of their credentials on sustainability and the environment. And then suddenly he's like, oh, okay, well, perhaps some of my other clients care about that.
Yeah.
The good contractors will be pitching this as a way of leveraging and as a way of differentiating themselves from the people who are just pricing.
Yeah, because we've started to see that already.
You'll see that. The people that are pitching, that we know who they are, they're really good at selling themselves.
Yeah.
And they use people like us correctly because they see a leverage opportunity, which is perfectly fine, and we're happy with
But it all boils back to that thing you said earlier on, the plan. So even if you are a small contractor that does domestic work and you don't see it as your priority at the moment, you do pick up a school next summer.
Yeah.
And that's where you need to go in with that. You need to be armed with that plan.
I would say to any contractor that's quoting for any form of government or local government, I would be using a product or products that have a high level of credibility around sustainability.
Yeah.
And in my proposal document, I would be including that.
Absolutely.
The reason for this choice is because they are the only plastic or UPVC manufacturer that use over 50%, recycled material. Because we don't want to scare the industry. Our specification people go out with one statement, armed with one statement. We want the specifier to write into the tech spec or into the specification document that the UPVC cable management should contain a minimum of 50% recycled content. Well, 50% is a hell of a lot better than zero.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now, the fact that we can provide that on all our commercial products, happy days.
So, difficult question. We all can't read into the future. Do you recommend us buying shares in Marshall Tufflex? No, I'm joking. What does the future hold for this? And maybe speak from a Marshall Tufflex perspective. What does it mean with future products changing, new products?
So for Marshall Tufflex, our vision and our strategy is around being the go-to cable management supplier for the electrical distributor.
Yeah.
Okay. We only deal with electrical distributors like yourself. We don't deal direct. We don't deal with the contractor. We deal with them in terms of we'll help them to specify, we'll help them to win a project, we'll do site visits, we'll do all those things. The transaction is with the distributor wholesaler.
Yes.
That's always the case. So Marshall Tufflex have branched out into metal now as well.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so we're not just reliant on UPVC. So right across the cable management needs, we've got everything that the contractor or the wholesaler would need. And that one-stop shop, I think, is going to be really powerful, especially if you're talking about you've got 5 or 6 different suppliers and then you can consolidate to one, and that consolidation is one delivery a week.
Absolutely. Yeah.
There's environmental impacts to how positive that is. So the way I think it will go is that decision-making will change. I think that transactions will be consolidated to less suppliers, and I think that there'll be many more product avenues that you haven't seen. So you guys already, and the rest of the listeners will understand all about solar PV, electrification. They'll understand all about heat pumps and all those things. Those are new products that are like massive markets.
Yeah,
but they all need some cable management, a distribution board. So I think that those people that get the sustainability message right will be in a really strong position when the suppliers are consolidated. I think the suppliers that don't engage with their ESG and can't prove and be credible, I think will slip away to different markets. I'm not saying they'll go. They'll go to different markets. And we're trying to encourage people to Marshall Tufflex. So if we take over a wholesale supply of UPVC product, we won't leave them with the competitor product. We'll purchase it from them, and for a replacement order of a value to be agreed, we will recycle the competitor's product.
Okay, so you're helping out that way as well.
So effectively, we eat our competitors.
Yeah.
So we recently had a lot of competitor product over a period of time that was recycled into usable material. We add a bit of colour and some stabiliser to it.
Yeah.
And when that's then so we had 104 tonnes come back into the supply chain. So that's about not far off 5 days production.
Yeah.
From our competitor buyback. So that's, again, this is not cradle to grave.
Yeah.
This is circular economy.
Yeah.
So,
okay, yeah.
You know, if with our offcuts, you know, when you start a machine up, it's obviously melted plastic and then it goes through water. The bits that we chop off the end, we recycle.
Yeah.
We use them again. So they've been recycled. They've started as a UPVC window, which is where we get our recycled product from, because they're high quality plastic that are open to the environment for 20, 30 years. UPVC protected, etc. So we chop them up with our partners, then we use them for the material, and then we recycle it and we use it again. So that has had multiple recycled opportunities, and it's recyclable.
Okay.
So when you put all this together,
it's a minefield in it to a certain extent.
But I think it's going to streamline suppliers.
In
answer to your question, I think it's going to streamline suppliers, and that's good for companies like Marshall Tufflex,
brilliant,
which is family owned and UK owned. So you can't buy any shares. Sorry, mate.
Yeah. So just coming to the final parts of the podcast. So where can listeners find more detail about this, John?
Okay, look, we're very open. So there's a whole sustainability section on our website. So if you just go to www.marshalltufflex.co.uk, click on the sustainability, it'll all be there.
Okay.
There's 5 different sections. You can see our certificate from Planet Mars. You can see our EcoVadis certificate. You can download TM65s for each of the products. You can see our sustainability 2028 strategy and vision.
Okay, so you got the plan.
So everything's just there, mate. We're totally open about it. We said from the beginning, if we're going to put our head above the parapet and say that we're market leaders in recycled UPVC, we've got to be as clean as possible on everything.
Brilliant.
So that means just being honest and open.
Absolutely.
If you're going to save the world 3 meters at a time, you've got to start somewhere.
There it is again. Superb. So I think really it's a strong message, like watch this space, this is happening, everybody needs to get on board with this and start thinking at least about a local plan. So John, really informative, lots of great stuff. Appreciate your time today, and I'm sure I'll see you very soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate your time and effort. If any of the listeners want to reach out to me directly, obviously I'm on LinkedIn. My surname is spelt a bit unusually, so I'm going to spell it if that's okay.
Yeah, go for it.
Humphery. And my email address, if you do want to reach out directly, is jonh@marshall-tufflex.com.
Fantastic. There we go, guys. You've got all the direct contact details there and a great insight to what we all should really be thinking about. Thanks, John. Thank you, everybody, for listening to information on sustainability from John Humphreys at Marshall Tufflex. I hope you enjoyed the listen. We're trying to make these podcasts as informative and as interesting to everybody as possible. Please don't forget the offers and the things that are going on within Lamps this month leading up to Christmas time. And I hope you look forward to hearing the next episode as we get closer to year end. Thanks again, everybody, for listening. Take care. Goodbye.